Well, thanks for letting me be part of your Easter celebration. We're about to celebrate an Easter unlike any other. I know that most of us are sheltering in place because of this COVID-19 crisis that we find ourselves in, but that does not keep us from celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Hebrews 12:27 says, all of creation will be shaken and removed so that only the unshakable things remain. We find ourselves in a Hebrews 12:27 moment. Everything on shaky ground. Millions of Americans have lost their job almost overnight. So many industries, airline, hotel, restaurant that are on shaky ground. As a sports fan, hard to believe, no March Madness, no opening day for baseball, no Masters tournament, stock market, registers on the Richter scale almost every day. And then you've got the medical community and government officials who are making very difficult decisions, putting themselves at risk every day. And so here we are on shaky ground. I think we have a tendency in the Western first world to put our trust in horses and chariots. We trust temporal things, material things. And then a crisis like this happens. I think God is shaking our false sense of security. I think God is shaking our illusion of control. I think God is waking us up to our mortality and his eternality. The ancient psalmist said it this way: some trust in chariots, some trust in horses. We trust in the name of the Lord our God. Can I tell you what is not shaken? It's our confidence in a holy God. He is the Ancient of Days. He is the Rock of Ages. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is God Most High. He is God Most Nigh. He is God with us, God for us, God in us. And so what do you do when everything's shaking? I think you reach out for what's immovable, what's unshakable, and that is the God that we serve. This weekend, as we celebrate Easter, there are two things that come to mind for me. As we're on shaky ground, two earthquakes that happen just 3 days apart. Now, the first earthquake happens when Jesus is on the cross. He cries out in a loud voice, the same voice that said, "Let there be light," that said, "Peace be still," to the storm, that said, "Lazarus, come forth," says, "It is finished." It's 3 words in English. It's 1 word in Greek, tetelestai. It means paid in full. It's an accounting term. A lot of people right now not sure how to pay the bills, not sure how to pay rent. Where is that next paycheck coming from? Pretty meaningful word right here, because even on ancient receipts, you would see this word written, literally means paid in full. Aren't you grateful that our sin debt is paid in full? And so Jesus cries out, "It is finished." And what happens? It says that the earth shakes and the rocks split. It says that the veil of the temple is torn in two. And then it says that tombs were open and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep in their death were raised to life. What an unbelievable moment. Now, it reminds me of this moment in the Chronicles of Narnia. Do you remember this? When Aslan, the Christ figure, he offers himself in Edmund's place. And he says this: when a willing victim who had committed no treachery was killed in the traitor's stead, the table would crack and death itself would start working backwards. That's what happened at the cross. Now let me fast forward to a second earthquake that happens. It says in Matthew 28, Verse 1, after the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning. His clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the women, "Fear not, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He is risen, just as he said." Let me back up just a little bit. For nearly 30 years, the one who crafted the universe with his voice crafted furniture with his hands. And he was good at what he did. Dorothy Sayers say, I dare say that no crooked table legs or ill-fitted drawers ever came out of the carpenter's shop in Nazareth. So for 30 years, Jesus is not just God incarnate, he is God incognito. This is history's best kept secret for about 30 years. Someone with incredible, miraculous power, yet here he is in a carpenter's shop. And then one day, the water that he created blushes. What do I mean? Well, he's at a wedding feast. They run out of wine. That's not the end of the world, but listen, pretty important day if you're the bride and the groom. So what does Jesus do? Well, he changes the molecular structure of water, turns it into wine, and not just wine, fine wine, and about 757 bottles. It's the first of 7 miracles recorded in John's gospel, and each one is more amazing than the last. Now, along with those 7 signs, there are 7 declarations. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door. I am the vine. I am the good shepherd. I'm the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus isn't just the way, he is the way maker. He's surrounded by 5,000 people who are hungry and maybe hangry. A little boy gives Jesus his lunch. That's great. But there's no way that you feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 2 fish. No way. Why? He is the way maker. If you put what you have in your hands into his hands, then 5 plus 2 doesn't equal 7 anymore. It equals 5,000 remainder 12. Jesus encounters a man born blind. If you're born blind, it means there are no synaptic connections between the optic nerve and visual cortex in the brain. You are never going to see again. There is no way. What does Jesus do? He doesn't just heal an astigmatism. He literally installs a new synaptic pathway in this blind man's brain. Why? Because he is the way maker. Lazarus, he's 4 days dead. There is no way Lazarus ever sees the light of day. No way. Because Jesus speaks into that tomb and says, Lazarus, come forth. He is the God who makes sidewalks through the sea. He is the God who makes iron axe heads float. He is the God who says, sun, stand still. Here's the bottom line. If the tomb is empty, all bets are off. Now listen, it's not the cross that makes Jesus unique. Listen, it's a beautiful picture of God's love. You mean the cross to Christ. But lots of people died on Roman crosses. Some archaeologists estimate about 1,000 crucifixions in Judea every year around the time of Christ. And so that's 3 per day. Jesus was crucified between 2 thieves. It was par for the course. Lots of people died on Roman crosses, but none of them predicted their own resurrection and then pulled it off. That is what makes Jesus unique, and that is what makes Jesus the way maker. I don't know what questions you have, but he's the answer. I don't know what problems you have, but he's the solution. I don't know what miracle you need, but he is the way maker, the miracle worker, the promise keeper. I have some good news. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwells in us. If we confess with our mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in our hearts that God raised him from the dead, we shall be saved. Happy Easter.